Okay. Rabosai, we're at Daf Yotes Amud Aleph, the very top of the page. The Gemara says, Tana, we learned Lelam de Chafina. We learned that they take him to the base of Tinas, to the chamber of the house of Tinas, to the family of Tinas, to teach him the art of filling his hands with the incense. It turns out actually during those days when the coin was put to the side, was hidden away, there were actually two chambers that he used. One of them was the one that we originally learned about, Farhedron, where he sleeps. One is the Lishka, the chamber of the house of Avtinas, where he would learn the art of filling his hands with the incense. One of them was on the northern side of the courtyard, one is on the southern side. How do we know that? Now we're going to first prove it. How do we know that one was on the north and one was on the south? There's a long statement of Rav Papa. How do I know that one was on the north and the south? I know one of them was the north, because we learned. There were 6 chambers in the courtyard. There were 3. Actually, that we want to talk about. There were 3 in the north and 3 on the southern side. What were the 3 chambers on the southern side? Lishkas HaMelach, the salt chamber, Lishkas HaParva, which we'll see what it is, Lishkas HaMedichen, and the Lishka of washing of the rinsing chambers. Lishkas HaMelech Sheshamay Nostim HaMelech HaKarban. Lishkas HaMelech, the chamber, the salt was where they used to put, where they would store the salt for the sacrifice. Lishkas HaParva, what was that? Shesham Hayamochin Oris Kadashim. That's where they would salt. They would salt the skins of the sacrifices. Gaga, and on the roof of that chamber, Haisa based tefillah. There was a chamber with the mikvah. Okay, the Kohen Gadol Yom Kippur, and that was the place where the mikvah was for the Kohen Gadol Yom Kippur. Remember, he had it on Yom Kippur. We're going to see he had to immerse himself in the mikvah 5 times. Each time he changed from the golden garments to the white garments, and from the white garments to the gold garments. And furthermore, Lishkas HaMedichen, what was that? What was Lishka of the rinsing? Shamay HaMedichen Kirbei Kadashim. There they would rinse the innards of the sacrifices. Misham Misiba, and from that chamber there was a circular staircase, Ola Ligabi Beis HaParva, that would go up to the Beis HaParva, what was called the Beis HaParva. Where do we see the 3 in the north? Lishkas HaEitz, Lishkas HaGola, Lishkas, the chamber of the wood, but it doesn't mean where they store the wood, it's different. Lishkas HaGola, the chamber of the exile, Lishkas HaGazis, the chamber of the cut stone. Okay, Lishkas HaEitz. Okay, Omar Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. What is that? What is the chamber of the wood? Shachachti Ma'isa Shemesh. I don't remember what it was. Abba Shalom. That's who's been speaking. As you remember, before that was who was speaking the whole time. Abba Shalom. Abba Shalom says Lishkas Kohen Gadol. He says no, that was a place. That was the chamber of the Kohen Gadol. What it says, Lishkas HaEitz, the wooden one, that was the chamber of the Kohen Gadol. That was what we called the chamber of Farhedron. That's the same thing. And that chamber was behind the other 2. It was behind the chamber of the cut stone and the chamber of the exile. And its entryway actually opened into a non-holy area. And the roof of all 3 of them was on one level. It was all equal. Lishka Sagola, what was the chamber of the exile? Shamhai Abor, there was a well. Okay, Agola. That was where the Bar Agola was. It was the well that was dug by the people who came up from the exile, and that's why it was called that. Vagalgal, and there was a wheel on top of it that we'd use to draw the water. And from there they would be able to provide water for the whole courtyard. Lishkas HaGazis, what was the chamber of the cut stone? Shamay Sanhedrin Shai Yisrael Yoshevas, that was the place, the famous place, Lishkas HaGazis, where the Sanhedrin of the Jewish people would sit, V'donas HaKohanim, and besides they did other things, but they would have to, each time a Kohen came to serve, when he first came, they would have to judge, to check out the lineage of the Kohen, that there's no flaw in it. Okay, both things. One, that their lineage is real, that they're proper Kohanim, and not the Kohanim are excluded, and not Kohanim who have a blemish. Anybody they found that he's not fit to be a Kohen, that he puts on black clothing and wraps his head up in black. Okay, and he goes and he leaves. But a person who wasn't disqualified as a kohen, but it wasn't disqualified as a kohen. He would wear white and put on white, and he would go in and serve with his brethren, the kohanim. So anybody who was found to be with a psuli put on black, and but don't forget, a kohen who just had a blemish could still he couldn't serve, but he would still check the wood. Echos badarim. Okay, we said that now he's continuing to say that this we had two chambers of the Kohen Gadol. Echos badarim. One of them is in the south. And how do I know that? I know one of those chambers of the Kohen Gadol is in the south. Well, how do I know that? Because we learned Shiva Sharim Hayu Ba'azara. There were 7 gates in the courtyard. Shlosha B'tzafon, Shlosha B'darim, B'mizrach. 3 in the north, 3 in the south, and 1 in the east. Shebadarim Shar Hadleiko. What were the ones in the south? The gate of the fire, of the conflagration. Sheni lo shar korban. The second to it, next to it was the gate of the sacrifice. Shishi lo shar mayim. The third was the gate of the water, where they used to bring the water in to pour in the mizbeach on Sukkot. And on the east, that was the gate of Nicanor, who brought the famous one, who brought the beautiful doors. And there were 2 chambers there. One to the right of the gate, one to the left of the gate. One was called the chamber, and Pinchas the dresser, he was named after the first one. That was the person in charge of dressing the Kohanim when they do the service, and undressing them after they do the service, and to guard the Kohen garments. And one was the chamber of those people who prepared the mincha that the Kohen Gadol brings every single day, half in the morning, half in the afternoon. That we called there was chavitin. It was a mincha made in the oil in a pan. Now Shabbat Tzafon. What are the gates in the north? Shar Nitzo. It's the gate of the ray of light, as we'll see on the being Achsadra, and that was a building that was really open. It was like, remember, we learned Achsadra, like an open building where the light pours in. Va'aliyah benuya al gabav, and it had a upper floor built on top of it. On these right, is built on top of it. Sham Kohanim Shomrim Milamala Levim Lamata, and there the Kohanim would guard from above, and the Levim would guard from below, from on the ground. Remember, the Kohanim and Levim had to guard the Beis Hamikdash. And then from it, no, there was a way to go out to the Chel. Remember, that's the area. For the fenced area between there and the wall of the courtyard. It was an area where people who were Tamei Mace or idol worshippers really couldn't come. Sheni lo shara carbon. Next to it was the gate of the carbon. Okay, that was where they would bring the carbon that was called Kodesh Kadashim, whose shechita was in the north. That's the one that's where they would bring him in from. Shish lo shar Beis HaMoked. And the third was the gate of the Beis HaMoked. That's the fire. The place of fire where there were big fires to warm up the Kohanim who were going around barefoot all the time in the Beis Hamikdash. But Tanya, we learned Chamesh Tfilos v'Asar Kedushin, and we learned that there were 5 times that the Kohen immersed himself, and 5 times he had to wash his hands and his feet. Tobo Kohen Gadol Makadosh B'Yom, that he would immerse himself and he would wash his hands and his feet on Yom Kippur. But Kulam B'Kodesh, all those were done in the holy area. Al Gav Beis HaParva, on the roof of the Beis HaParva that was built in the holy area, not in the non-holy area. Chutz mizu, except for all except for the first tefillah of the Kohen Gadol, which was not for the sake of Yom Kippur, because just for the fact that nobody's allowed to go into the holy area, even if he's tar without immersing himself. So that first immersion was in the unholy area on top of the house or the gate of the water. And that was next to his chamber. So therefore, we see clearly that the Kohen had one chamber on the south. Okay, and Rav Papa continues. So now I don't know if the Parhedron, the place where he slept, was in the north. The place of the house of Atinas, the chamber where he learned how to fill his hands with the incense, was in the south. Or maybe it was the opposite, that the chamber of the house of Atinas where he learned how to fill his hands was in the north, and the Lishkas Verhedrin was in the south where he slept. But it makes sense. It's reasonable to assume that the place, the Lishkas Verhedrin, where he slept was in the south. That was really in the south. Why? My time. What's the reason that makes it make sense? More sense that it was in the south. The Magdim B'Koi, because we know he gets up in the morning. He has to get up in the morning. Okay, Mesech wears a raglav. He covers his feet, means he has to move his bowels. Okay, so he's going to have to, by definition, he's going to have to go to the mikveh before he goes into the before he goes into the courtyard. Because anybody who moves his bowels has to go into the mikveh in order to go back into the courtyard. And he goes to the mikveh next to his chamber, and then he goes to because that's where the mikveh was. And then he goes to the north to his other chamber, the Gomar Chafina, and there he learns to fill his hands. And then all the 7 days when he is separated, he's going to go to the Beis Hamikdash and do he's going to practice the service every day. Okay, he's going to do the service in order to get him used to it again. Okay, Bahadi Panya, towards the evening, like we learned earlier, Madola, that's when they sprinkled the red heifer water on him, like we did every day, which made him unclean for the day. Okay, and now because he became tummy, so he would go back to the south, okay, and go to the mikveh because of the sprinkling. But Nayach, okay, and then he could go to his house, to his chamber, and he can go to sleep. So that all makes sense. That procedure makes perfect sense. Okay, the but you're going to say that the sleeping chamber was on the north side, and remember in the mikveh it's going to be on the south. It's going to be very strange. He's going to get up and go to the bathroom on the north. We also and then he's going to have to go to the south in order to go to the mikveh. But he's going to have to go, and you're going to see that's going to be a big detour. Because how's he getting to the south? Okay, he has to go to the mikveh, and then he's going to go to the mikveh and go in the south. Okay, and then he's going to go. He'll go to the mikveh and then learn how to do the filling of the hands to learn the filling of the hands where in the south, because it has to be the opposite side, because you're not saying that his sleeping chamber is in the north and it's Beis Haftinis, which is in the south. The Beis Hamikdash and then he gets to the Beis Hamikdash and do the service all day long. In the evening, they're going to sprinkle the red heifer water on him. And then he's going to have to go back down to the south again to go to the mikveh, okay, because he just got unclean from the sprinkling water. Then he's going to have to go back up to the north to go to sleep, okay, and then he's going to have to go back, okay. When we talk about Tochin Le'Kuli Hai, we're going to force him to go back and forth so much, and people learn also because he's going to have to go walk around the courtyard from the north to the south to be able to go to the mikveh. So you're going to make him really trouble himself. You're going to have to go all the way around in order to do that. That's how some people learn. So the answer is we don't trouble the Kohen so much. It makes sense, therefore, to say that his toveling place and his bedroom was on the south, and the Lishkas Beis Haftina was in the north. Alma Lo. So he says, get out of here. He says, who said Papa He says, why not? He says, the truth is we trouble him, and we want to trouble him. Why is that? On the contrary, what we do is we want to make it hard for him. Why is that? Because we want people who don't belong in this business to be discouraged from doing it. The Tzadduka here, let's say he's a Sadducee, the people who don't listen to the rabbis, and he doesn't really fear God. Lifrosh, let him be troubled, let him quit. He'll quit. He doesn't care enough. If you make it hard for him, he's going to quit. And we want those guys to quit. We don't want them in there. They don't do what the rabbis tell them. They don't do the service the way the rabbi said to do it. Inami, alternatively, even if he's a kosher kohen, there's a reason why I want to give him trouble. Why shelo tozuk datolo? So he shouldn't become haughty from the fact that he is the kohen. The lo temach. If you don't say that we want to purposely make it hard for him. Why in the world would his two chambers be in two different sides from the outset? They should be on one side anyway. Who would plan that way? Who would plan from the outset that he has to run back and forth? Therefore, it makes sense that they'd be together. Inami, or alternatively, alternative, he'd only have one. We could do both. He'd have one chamber where he could sleep and where he could also learn how to fill his hands. And therefore, it makes sense to say against Rav Papa that we purposely want to make him have trouble, either because if he's a Saduki that he should quit, or that any even a kosher guy shouldn't be haughty about who he is. We give him trouble. Ramalo Ishi Kohen Gadol. And then they said to him, sir, Kohen Gadol, our master, the Kohen Gadol. Now the language they say is, you are our messenger and the messenger we're the messengers of based in, and you're our messenger, you're our proxy. Now there's a problem. We have a famous argument whether the Kohen, when he does the work for a person's sacrifice, whether he's the messenger of the person bringing the sacrifice, he's the proxy, or the proxy of God. Now, what would be the practical difference? Let's say a person swore that he won't get any benefit from a Kohen. So if the Kohen that does the service for his sacrifice is considered his proxy, then he's benefiting from the work of the Kohen. That's forbidden. But even if he swore off any benefit from the Kohen, if the Kohen is Hashem's messenger, it's none of his business. The Kohen does what God told him, and it's not considered him getting direct benefit, no matter what happens. But the sacrifice is not considered him getting benefit from the Kohen. So it makes a very big difference if a person swore off all benefit from the Kohen, whether the Kohen can whether that Kohen can do the work for his sacrifice. So it was an argument. So now you told me that they say to him, you're our messenger, or you're our messenger, you are our proxy. So let's say our Mishnah will be a knockout difficulty to Rav Huna Bar Yeshua because he held Amar Rav Huna Bar Yeshua. He's the one who held Hani Kahani Shluchad Rachmaninu. He's the one who held that they are the proxies of God, and not the proxies of the person who brought the carbon. The Yom Shlich Daninu, because how did he prove it? He said, how do we know that because I proved to you that it can't be our proxy, because they're really our proxies. It's against the very principle of proxyhood, whatever the word is. Why is that? Because the rule of an agency is what? The agent's only extension of the person who appointed him. So anything that he says, can I have an agent do something that we can't do? An agent's only extension of me. What I can do, he can do for me. But if I can't do it, he can't be my agent to do it. So if the Kohen, here, this guy's not a Kohen. He can't do the work of the carbon. So how can the Kohen be his agent? I can't point an agent to do work I can't do. So it must be, by definition, that he's an agent of Hashem, not an agent. But now in our mission, that it said, you're our agent. So you see that he's not the agent of God to knock out kasha. When it says, nah, that's not what they were saying. This is what they were saying. Really, that's just the way of saying we are imposing a vow upon you and the vow is the way we understand it and the way Beis Din understands it. It's not with some crazy convoluted way you're going to understand it and slip out and not do the right thing. We're making you swear the way we mean it and not the way you want to construe it. And we said after they make him swear, he goes away. He goes away, takes leave, and he cries. And they take leave and they cry. Why does he take leave and cry? Because they suspected him of being a Sadducee, of being a non-follower of the rabbis. Meaning, what they suspected him that he's going to put the coals on the fire outside of the holy. Going to put the incense on the coals outside the holy of holies, and then go in. And they cry, and they take leave and they cry. Okay, why? Why are they crying? They're crying. Okay. Right. So he's crying because they suspect him. They're crying. And what? And because we know anybody who suspects a person who's proper, a proper person is afflicted on their body. So they're also crying. Here they maybe the guy that they just said, listen, make you swear. They were suspecting a kosher person of being a Saduki. Okay, it's Saduki. Okay, why do they have to go so far to make him swear? We don't want him to put the incense on the fire pan outside of the Holy of Holies. Okay, and then go in. The way that Tzedukim do, because that's the way they understood the pasuk, that he has to do it. He has to go in already with it on the fire. Tana Rabbana. Now we're going to see how do we. There's a famous story. We learned Ma'aseh b'Tzeduki Echad. There was once happened with a certain Tzeduki. These people who don't listen to the rabbis. He was a Kohen Gadol. Shehiski mi b'chutz v'hichnis. What he did was he did the other way. He put the incense on the coals outside of the Holy of Holies and then walked in. B'tziasa, when he came out, he was very, very happy. Pagaba Avi, his father ran into him, and he said, Bini, my son, even though we are Sadducees, okay, and we learn from the pasuk that you're supposed to put the incense on the coals outside, we're still afraid of the Perushim, we're afraid of the wise men, of the rabbis, and we listen to them. Amar lo, so his son said to him, he says, all my life I was concerned about this verse, because if we're in a cloud, I will appear above the ark cover. Amarti, they understood from that pasuk that he really has to have the cloud of incense when he walks in. Okay, so he says, I'm thinking all my life, when am I going to have a chance to fulfill this verse the way the Sadducees explain it? Now that I have a chance, you think I'm not going to do it? I did it the Tzduki way and not the way of the Perushim of the rabbis. Amruz, and they said, it was only a very few days it didn't pass before he died. Okay, V'huta Bashban, he was thrown into a trash heap. And worms were coming out of his nose. Okay, and some people say the story went this way, but Tziyaso Nigaf, that he was already smitten when he came out. What happened was they heard a kind of voice. They heard like a sound of an angel came and smashed him on his face. He smashed him on his face. Yeah, he made him fall down on his face. And the Kohanim came in and they found him. And what did they find? They found the mark of a round footprint between his shoulders. Okay, Shenamar, as it says, Ragleim Regel Yeshora, Vakaf Ragleim Kakaf Regel Egel. They had a straight leg, and the sole of their foot was like the soles of their feet was like a round sole. Rabbi Zechariah ben Kavuto. Now we quoted in the end Rabbi Zechariah ben Kavuto, who said that he often read between the Kohen Gadol. He a lot of times read in front of the Kohen Gadol. He read the book of Daniel, V'chulu, etc. Now, Masili Rav Chana bar Rav Lechia bar Rav Kamei the Rav. So we don't know how to spell that name or how to pronounce it. So one of them taught. He says Amar Rabbi Zechariah ben Kafuto. He said Kafuto with a fei. Zechariah the son of Kafuto. Rabbi Yodeh, and Rav signaled with his hand, okay, kavuto, that he should say it with the base, kavuto, not kafuto, but kavuto. And he signaled with his hand to show him that. What do you mean? Why is he signaling with his hand? Why does he just tell him how to say it? The answer is Kriya Shema Abikar, because he was in the middle of reading the Kriya Shema. I think I says so. If he's in the middle of Kriya Shema, then even signaling with the hand is not okay. Are you allowed to signal with your hand when you're reading the Kriya Shema? Didn't we learn? If a person is reading the Shema, he shouldn't signal to a person with his eyes. Nor should he mouth the words with his lips. Nor should he indicate with his fingers. And he said, anybody reads Shema, and he signals with his eyes, and where he mouths the words with his lips, he signals a person with his fingers, all of a by such a person that says, Yaakov, you didn't call me Yaakov. He didn't say the Kriya Shema properly. Okay, so he says, how could he do it? Even that, how could he do it? Lo kasha, it's not difficult. All the Parakrishan, when can't you do any of those things? That's in the first chapter of Shema. We have to have really good kavanah, because it says, these things should be in your heart. Oh, but when he would signal, etc., but Parak Sheni, that's talking about the second chapter where you're allowed to. Tana Rabbana, we learned with the Barta Bam, you should speak in them about these words. Bam below b'tfilah. You have to speak in them, but not. You don't speak. You say the words of Shema, but by tefillah you don't make the words loud. You have to say the words of tefillah quietly. Kriya Shema, you say the words so you can hear them, but Kriya Shema you say quietly. There's a debate of how much you should hear by tefillah. Read the Bam again. It says you speak in them. Bam, you should speak about them. Words of Torah, yesh lecha rishus l'daber. Bam yesh lecha rishus l'daber. The words of Torah, you have permission to speak. You don't have the right to talk about other things, childish talk and lightheaded talk. He says, you know what? He said, well, you should speak in them. The words of Torah have to be your primary occupation. Don't make them a temporary occupation. Rava says the person who speaks mundane talk over B'yaseh, he transgresses a positive precept. Okay, why Shenemar says you should speak in them. So from a positive precept, you learn the negative. You should speak in them and not in other things. He says the person who speaks mundane talk over B'lav, he transgresses a negative precept. Shenemar, as it says, it says all the things tire you out, nobody could speak it. It means what? So instead of learning that nobody could possibly exhaust these topics, it means what? A person is not allowed to speak these wearying, mundane things. We'll call that a daf. We'll continue tomorrow. We'll do this, and Mr. Hashem will fill in the couple lines that I missed the other day. Everyone have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos.